Welcome everyone. This is going to be Independent Challenge 1, which is found on page 3-19 in the Excel portion. And it's got some pretty neat stuff in here. So the very first thing I'm going to do is open up EX3 and I'm going to save it as accounts. So I'll hit F12 and I will hit, I've already done this, so I'm going to use this name and put my initials after it. So that's good. So it tells us to use the date function to create the date 5/18/21. Remember that today gives you the current date, where the date function allows you to physically put the date in. I think it's just an easy way of doing it without having to type in the date, although you actually do have to put the date in. So I'm not really 100% sure what the advantage is of doing it that way, but it is there for you. So we're going to go to B3, which is right here. And we're going to go to formulas, and we're going to go to date and time, and we're going to put in date. So you have to put the year, month, and day in. Maybe they just figure it's easier than having to use slashes. However, it's there. So let's do it. Remember that the year is first. And I usually hit the tab key to go to month and day. The month is 5, and the day is 18. And that takes care of that. Enter a formula in C5 that calculates the statement age by subtracting the statement date. Now remember, you can subtract dates and actually get a numeric number, because dates really are numbers in as far as Excel is concerned that starts at a specific day, which is usually, I believe, something in 1980. So it would be like the number of days since then. So at this point in time, let's just take a look and read it again. It calculates the statement age by subtracting the statement date from the report date in B3. So if you actually do it in reverse, you're going to get a negative number. So we want to put in here the statement age is equal to the statement report date minus, and I'm going to make a mistake here on purpose. So this tells us 41 days. So we just figure, okay, let's just copy it down. And we have all kinds of issues. The reason being is we need to make sure that this B3 is absolute. So I'm just going to select it and hit F4 and hit enter. Still get 41. So let's copy this down here and see what happens. So that looks pretty good in here. So you could take a look at the page on 320 that gives you the answers. Remember, when you're turning these things in, make sure that you have formulas and not just copying the numbers in there. So in cells, F5, we're going to enter an if function that calculates the patient responsibility. Does give you a hint. The logical test should check to see if the procedure amount is greater than the insurance payment. Then it's going to be true, and otherwise it should be 0. So the patient responsibility, so let's just take a look at this right now. If the procedure amount is $3,000 per se, and the insurance is $2,000, well, then the patient responsibility is going to be the difference between the two, which should be $1,000. In this particular case, it'll be $500. So we're doing the procedure amount. Now, this is not the actual correct formula, but I want to show you what's going to wind up happening. So it's 500. So what we need to do is we need to actually put an if statement in here. So I'm just going to copy this for the heck of it, so I don't have to retype it. So let me get rid of this, and let's go back and do an if statement. So if the logical test, if the procedure amount minus the insurance amount is greater than 0, So then what is it going to be? So let's take a look exactly what it says. The logical test should check to see if the procedure amount is greater than the insurance payment. If it's true, it should calculate the procedure minus thing. So basically, it's exactly the same as this, which is going to be D5 minus E5. Otherwise, it's going to be 0. And it does not matter whether you put a capital D or little d, or whether or not you click on select it or not. Whatever way you want to do it is your choice. So notice that it tells us that it is 500, and this is actually going to result in a $500 payment. Then we can copy this down. And I'm going to take a look and see if everything looks right. 700. So far, we're pretty good. Remember, it doesn't hurt to read something more than one time to get it. All right, so we're going to copy the if statement down, which we did. In cell G5, we're going to do an AND to find accounts that are past due. Accounts are past due if a patient is responsible for a balance due and the statement age is over 30. So obviously, anything that is 0 is not going to qualify. This one, we need to look and see if the statement age is over 30. So now we just need to do an AND, which is going to be in the logical. So the first thing is, this is obviously going to be greater than 0. And if the statement age is over, let's see how many days, 30 days. So that is obviously true. So what does it tell us to do in here? Again, let's make sure. And all it wants us to put it is true or false. So then we're going to use the fill handle to calculate down. And let's see what it looks like. Oops. So we have the first 3 is going to be true because there is patient responsibility and they're all 30 days. Here we have patient responsibility, but they're under 30 days. So we're pretty good. And this one has no patient responsibility. So that's pretty good so far. In cell B13, we want to count the number of accounts. So again, all we want to use is the count A. So if you logical, you might want to think it's in logical, but it's really not. It's more in statistical. And if you don't find it there, if you're having a hard time doing it, use the regular function here, such as here. And then you can type in count A. And it finds it there, tells you what it is. Either way, it's just fine. So what we want to do is just count the number of accounts. Remember, that just counts cells that are non-zero. And we come up with 7, which is accurate. In J, enter a function in cell B14 that averages the procedure amount. So here it is, the procedure amount. Several different ways to do it. Since we have formulas open, let's use the auto sum and click on average. And we have B13, but that's obviously not what we want. We want the procedure amount. And we'll click on average, and that's kind of a crazy number. So what it's going to do is have us format it properly. So let's take a look at the format. We want to use a autocomplete to round the function in B14 to 0. So by autocomplete, they just mean go in here and click after the 0 and start typing. So if we start typing ROU, notice that we get round. And once we do that, we get the percentages, or rather the parentheses. Then we just need to type in the number of decimal places that we want, which is 0. Put on our closing parentheses, and we're good there. Then we want to use the footer to enter our name in the center section. So we have to go to page layout there. And we want to go into page setup. We're going to go to header and footer, go to custom footer, and then type your name. And we'll go into print preview so you can see that it is there. It's always a good thing to check. That is number I, and we previewed it. Save your work and close the workbook. So that is everything right there.